Many Australians' minds, I suspect, would tonight be on the unemployment numbers released a bit earlier in the day. The millions, as I said, in the official statistic, and the millions being masked by the raft of welfare payments, all designed to get us through this pandemic. I'll get to all of that in just a moment, and the battle we have, given Victoria's record infection numbers today, and how we balance protecting health with preserving jobs in our economy. But if we only talk about the issue of the day, then we won't tackle the underlying causes of our present difficulties. Put the pandemic aside for a moment and ask yourself, what has been responsible for the extraordinary well-being of these times compared to any other in the best of human history? No doubt you'll come up with more scientific knowledge, better technology, greater social and economic freedom, better appreciation of the environment, and so on. But the indispensable element in all of these, the essential ingredient that drove them, is contestability of ideas. Add to that freedom of conscience, of association, of religion, of free speech, and you have the foundation of so much of what we have that has delivered us to where we are today. But sadly, strangely, we now put that at risk by taking it all for granted. Take the issue of gender, or as it is now, sex and gender. Sex being the biological reality of male or female, and gender now being, depending on the definition, 2, 13, 33 or 64 optional identifiers. Years ago at university, when I argued for the rights of women, I was arguing for equality. A fair go. I still argue for that today, not to be held back for being a woman, but not expecting to be advanced because of it either. How mad is it that all the hard-won gains for women are now at risk because we allow the right of a man to simply declare he's a woman above the rights of women themselves, even so far as the right to enter a public toilet for women, or women's sporting competitions, or indeed even a women's prison. Recent law changes in Victoria have upended 100 years of advancement for women. Yet to even try and debate what's been lost, you're howled down and abused. The left, silenced by the fear of being labelled transphobic, have walked away from their feminist fight, and on the right, always averse to the feminist label in the first place, well, they're loath to enter the fray. Race is much the same too, isn't it? Sure, there is still prejudice, but in fewer and fewer places are people advantaged or disadvantaged because of their race. It's been an extraordinary advance, step by step, over the past 2,000 years, to the point of complete legal equality and almost complete societal acceptance, at least in countries like ours. And it's all because people have been prepared to challenge each other and to ask constantly whether how we treat people accords with our fundamental common humanity. Do any of us want to hear arguments against our own convictions on important topics, or against our own self-interest? Often not enough, but we should. Because if people can't make a case against our own position, even cases we conclude that are insubstantial or unpersuasive, how can we ever deepen our understanding, change our minds, affirm our positions, or accept that current practice might indeed be wrong? This is why the cancel culture is not only dangerous, but also contrary to everything that has made the modern world succeed. Is Bari Weiss, for instance, the just resigned New York Times columnist, right about everything? I doubt it. But should she have been the subject of in-house ridicule and bullying because she thought the Trump phenomenon ought to be explained and examined rather than just denounced? Of course not. Is J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, right to say that you're not a woman just because you say you are? Well, frankly, yes, she is. In my view, I agree with her. Still, if people want to disagree with her or me, that's their right. The problem is when someone, especially someone like Rowling, who has written deeply and thoughtfully on this issue, is howled down or cancelled just because some don't share her view. She's not anti-trans, nor am I, but she's pro-women. Dozens of prominent writers and thinkers, nearly all of them on the left, Martin Amis, Noam Chomsky, Francis Fukuyama, Gloria Steinem, have just signed an important letter to Harper's Magazine. And the quote in the letter is, editors are fired for running controversial pieces, they say. Books are withdrawn for alleged inauthenticity. Journalists are barred from writing on certain topics. Professors are investigated for quoting works of literature in class. A researcher is fired for circulating a peer-reviewed academic study, and the heads of organisations are ousted for what are sometimes just clumsy mistakes. Whatever the argument around each particular incident, the result has been to steadily narrow the boundaries of what can be said without the threat of reprisal. We are already paying the price in greater risk aversion amongst writers, artists and journalists who fear for their livelihoods if they depart from the consensus or even lack sufficient zeal in their argument. And they went on. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument and persuasion, not by trying to silence or wish them away. And that's indeed the challenge for all of us today, to speak up more loudly than ever before at the time now in our history when our opponents demand our silence.